Okay, in this example we're going to look at a lottery where we're picking 5 numbers from 1 to 35 with no repetition, and it costs $1 for a ticket. If you get all 5 numbers, you win the jackpot, and with a lot of lotteries these jackpots vary, so we're going to estimate it at $50,000. If we pick 4, we win $500, and if 3 of ours that we picked match, we win $5. Otherwise, if we pick 2, 1, or 0, we win nothing. We lost our dollar that we initially paid. And so for each of these payouts, we still lose that dollar because we have to pay for the dollar, that ticket up front, and you only get to redeem that ticket for the winnings if one of these 3 events are matched up. So what is the expected winnings of a single ticket? And so remember, when we talk about expected values, the expected value is simply the sum of the product of outcomes with their probabilities. And so that means that I need to figure out my winning is my outcome, the winning value. I need to find out the probabilities for each of those winnings. Since it's costing me $1, I have to kind of factor that into at some point. So either we can do it at the front or we can do it at the end. I typically like to approach these problems by factoring the cost right up in the front, otherwise I've got a chance of forgetting about it. So I'm going to be listing out what my net gains are. So those are the outcomes of buying the ticket. I could win. We estimated $50,000, but we still got to consider the cost of the ticket. So I'm just going to take that dollar off anyways, although that $50,000 was an approximation. So if we match all 5, our theoretical gain is $49,999. And so I'm going to have to figure out what that probability is. So I'll get to that in a moment. The other net gains, so we look at, I win $500. Well, it still cost me $1 for that ticket. So it's actually winning $499. I win $5. Well, it still cost me $1, so I only won $4. And then if I lost, it's not that nothing happened. Well, I lost my $1. So my net gain there is a -1. So looking at the probabilities, this is where it's going to require a little bit more work on our part. The probability of winning is that I have to choose all 5 winning numbers out of the 35 possible. So the only way for me to win is that all 5 that I choose match the 5 selected. So I'm going to calculate this probability, and then we'll do it for each one of these. This one's not too bad because it's a combination problem. Out of the 5 winning, I'm choosing 5 of them. So this is 5, choose 5. How many different ways could we choose 5 out of the 35 numbers? So remember, we're doing the NCR here, so I've got 35 numbers to choose from, and I want 5 of them. This ratio gives me my probability of winning that jackpot. So 5, choose 5. There's actually only one way that happens, and you should verify it with the formula. And if you're using not a calculator that can do this for you, but if you're doing it by hand, this is 35 factorial over 5 factorial times 35 minus 5 factorial. So we have that the probability of winning, 49,999, is 1 over this number. And so if you simplify this, we've got 35 times 34 times 33 times 32 times 31 times 30 factorial, simplified down to the largest factorial in the denominator. 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times that 30 factorial. We know those 30 factorials are going to cancel each other out. And now I just have to reduce this down. So we can divide 5 into 35. 4 can go into 32 here, 8 times. 3 can go into 33, 11 times. And 2 can go into 34, 17 times. So pulling out a calculator, I have the probability that we win at 49,999 is 1 over this product, 7 times 17 times 11 times 8 times 31. Which is, when you put it into a calculator and multiply that out, we get 324,632. So I got one taken care of. I've got to find the probability of these other three. And this is where it's going to get a little bit more challenging to get those probabilities. So we're going to look at the 499 winning. So the outcome is I win 499. What this means is I match 4 of the 5 that are chosen. And so I want to look at how many ways that's possible out of the 35, matching 5 out of the 35, which I already know the denominator for. So the probability that I win 499 is going to be the number of ways that this can happen. I'm going to match 4 of them, but my 5th one doesn't match. Out of the possible ways that I can choose 5 out of 35. And we already, again, saw that to be 324,632. So that part's done. What we got to do is figure out the numerator. So thinking about it is, well, I match the 4, and then that last one, there's still a number of ways that I can choose a ball that doesn't match one of those 5. So 5 have been chosen means that 30 of them have not. So 30, I need to choose one of them not to match. And so I'm using the fundamental counting principle here, is that I've got one way for the one not to match out of the 30. And then I have to figure out, well, how many ways can I match 5 of those? And again, that's a combination problem. So I have 5, choose 4 of them. And so we need to simplify this. The nice thing about the 30 choose 1 is that you're going to see that the answer is just going to be 30. 5 choose 4, I have 5 factorial over 4 factorial times 5 minus 4 factorial by the definition. That's 1 factorial, which is 1, and here I have 5 times 4 factorial. So the 4 factorials are going to cancel, so I have 5 times 30 actually on top, and again the denominator is still the 324,632. So my probability of winning is 5 times 30, so 150 over 324,632. Now I need to find the probability that we win a net gain of $4. So that means I match 3 of these. So again, we're going to have to use that fundamental counting principle, just like we did for matching 4. So in this situation, I have that I win a total of $4, and that means I match 3 of the 5. So that probability of winning, and again that's for our net gain, is the same counting principle here. First I have to figure out, well, how many ways can I match 3 of the 5? So that's 5 choose 3. And then 2 of them must not have matched those 5, so I have to figure out how many ways can I choose 2 from the 30. And denominator is still 5 choosing 5 out of 35, and we saw that again was 324,632. So I need to simplify these two combinations. So I went ahead and just kind of wrote the definition for both of those and realized that we just need to reduce this down to a lower form. And so that first term here, I have 5 times 4 times 3 factorial all over 3 factorial times, that's 2 factorial, which is 2 times 1. The second term, I have 30 factorial, and there's a 28 on the bottom, so I'm going to take this as 39 times 29 times 28 factorial, all over 2 factorial, which is 2 times 1. And not to forget it, still have the same denominator, 324,632. I realize I wrote a 6 there. So simplifying, just going to go through this quickly. The 3 factorials cancel, the 2 cancels, that gives me 2 here. The 28 factorials cancel, 2 goes into 30 15 times. That's going to leave me in my numerator 5 times 2 times 15 times 29. And so when you take that product, you get 4,350. So I have my probability of winning a net gain of the 49,999, 499, 4, and now we're left with the probability that we just lose the dollar by playing the lottery. Now that one can happen in a few different ways. Either I only match 2, I only match 1, or I match 0. And that seems, just based on the other work, to be a little bit cumbersome. And so one of the things that we can remember is that when I add up all the probabilities, I have to get 1 as an answer. So the probability that I win, or I have that net gain of a negative $1, is 1 minus the probability that we had the 49,999. So I'm adding these all up together, the 499 and the $4. And that seems it's going to be much easier to calculate. So I'm going to take the 1 minus each of those probabilities. So I had 1 over 324,632. The probability of 499 was 150 over that number. And the probability that we had 4, we just found, was 4,350 over 324,632. So I'll be right back after I simplify it. This gives me a result of 320,131 over 324,632. And that's just 1 minus the sum of these 3 fractions, so you can verify that. So on to my result, my expected value. So my expected net gain here is going to be each outcome weighted by their probability and then summing up the total. So to save time, I just kind of wrote out that result. And let me give yourself a little more room here. The expected value was, again, each outcome, so winning the 49,999 jackpot times its probability, the 499 times its probability, the 4 times its probability, and the probability of just that negative 1 outcome, the probability times that negative 1 outcome of losing. And so if I simplify this in my calculator, I get that the expected net gain of playing the lottery, so again I'm paying the dollar to play the lottery, is going to be the sum of those products. Now if you want it in a fraction form, it's negative 177,882 over 324,632. And that rounds to roughly, so to 2 places here because we're dealing with money, is that I'm losing on average 55 cents per lottery ticket that I purchased.